guys, Judy Fine here. Please excuse the operator giddy up. I have some background noise I'm trying to eliminate from this recording. So I haven't put a video out in a while, and that's because I have been busy selling my house, moving out of it and moving into this. You'll probably notice that the background is looking a little different, speaking of backgrounds. But before I sold my house, I interviewed a former student of mine named Gordon Russell. He's a singer and guitarist, and he has a solo act. And I asked him to show us his gear because he's got a great setup. He uses a drum machine and a looper and a voice harmonizer. He's going to answer some questions. He's going to show us his rig and sing a couple songs for us. If you want to support Gordon, which you should, because we all should support each other, you can follow his Facebook page. It is Gordon Russell Acoustic Solo Musician. His handle is at G3 Acoustic. And if you have any questions, you could certainly put them in the comment section. I will get the questions to Gordon. If you have your own ideas about having a great solo performance setup that we didn't talk about here, you can share them in the comment section. Maybe I'll make it into another video. All right, enjoy.
Before we get started, why don't you tell us about yourself, about how you came to music, about when you first performed, things like that. Tell us how Gordon Russell got started.
All right, yeah, so music, actually I'm the only person in my family that plays music at all, surprisingly. I think that's why my dad supported me throughout the years, because in fact, I have in my closet here a violin that his great-great-grandmother gave him that apparently he very much liked listening to her play it, and he always referred back to it. But anyhow, I started piano lessons when I was very young, like most kids do. And then it wasn't until before I started like junior high, we moved from New York, where we were transferred upstate Albany, down to, from Maine, back down to New York, where we were originally born. And you were required to take music class at that school, and you had to pick an instrument that you wanted to learn. And so at that point in time, for whatever reason, I decided to pick bass. So actually, I'm a pretty decent bass player. I wound up picking that up. I knew music theory, so they kind of just locked me in a room. I got it down, and from there forward, I started playing, bass in orchestras and bands and all of that. Did a lot of band work in high school, a lot of orchestra work. Eventually started doing plays and productions, and then, by the age of 17, I started doing, and actually in a lounge act. That the guys in high school all made fun of me until they found out how much money I was making doing the lounge work in a wedding on the weekend. So, as a 17-year-old, that was pretty good. And then I went to college, got through about a year and a half. At that point, I started really doing rock and roll and some original stuff, and with some people that I had hooked up with. And then announced one day to my father that I was going to drop out of college and go on the road with this rock and roll band, which we did, traveled up and down the Northeast doing original rock and roll music.
How'd your father take that?
Pretty good, he was like, well, I don't think you're going to make the kind of money you want to make, but I'm willing to support it. You got to do what you got to do. You can sleep in that bed upstairs, come to the dinner table, and I'm going to pay your car insurance because you can't screw that up, but the rest of it, you got to figure it out, And I did. I made some pretty good money towards the end, actually, eventually enough that I could move out. And my claim to fame with the original rock and roll band, we did a few, sort of minor, major label warm-ups. The biggest thing I ever did was to warm up the Romantics as they kicked off. Yeah, as they were kicking off their tour of their second album. And that's sort of my highlight, because I'll never forget, it was probably the most people ever played to. There was probably about 750 people in the theater, the concert hall. And we did a bang out set. It was great, all our originals. And we got all done, and the lead singer was like, all right, the Romantics will be up next. And all of a sudden I heard from the audience, we go, F the Romantics, keep playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but then eventually, and we were traveling. We had a road crew. They got paid more than I did to, go to each city and set up for us and whatnot. And eventually it got old and tiresome. And
Yeah.
I dropped out. I quit and went back to college, finished it, and went and got a boring job. And of which, when I met my wife in college, I told her, hey, when I retire, I'm going to go back to my music. Hence why then I picked up acoustic guitar, because playing solo acoustic bass doesn't work very.
Not a lot of gigs, no.
So guitar's pretty new for me. I had messed around with it when I was younger, but never really played it out professionally. But so I started doing that and practicing my singing, my vocals, and then I made good on my promise to my wife that I would get back to my music and start doing some solo acoustic gigs. So
nice. Were you singing in the original band?
Yeah, backup, a little bit of lead, but mostly backup.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I didn't even know all that.
And here we are today, waiting for the clubs to open back up so we can play again.
Yeah.
Someday.
Fingers crossed. So when are you going to play for us?
Yeah, so we're going to do, we'll break down just a couple of tunes real short just to demonstrate the capabilities of the rig. And I'm excited to be able to do a sort of rig rundown here. Something happened here. Want you to see exactly here. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. This time I stopped, children, what's that sound? Everybody looked going down. That line's being drawn, and body's right, everybody's wrong. Young people speaking in my hands, get so much resistance far from behind. It's time to stop. Yeah, who's that sound? Everybody looked going down. Said you better stop. Yeah, what's that sound? Everybody looked going down. But there's actually two, there are Roland SPD-1 percussion pads. One's percussion, one's more is kick. And you can do all sorts of stuff. I'll have to pull this down in order to speak and touch the buttons. But the percussion can use, it's got cymbals, it's got, you can do a tambourine out of it, more cowbell.
Can't get enough.
Snare. I mostly use it on the other one here is just kick. You can do about 10 different kick drums. So mostly I'm doing a standard kick, and it's just that'll get me a live sort of boom chuck. I can do that live, and I'll use it as just an adder or filler for some of the tunes. Now, to get more into the depth of the rig, the TC Helicon is the center of it all. It's a VoiceLive 3 Extreme, and it's extreme in that it's doing everything. So it's got hundreds of different guitar effects that you can program into presets, and it's everything that TC Helicon and Digitech makes as far as the chorus, the delays, octavers, and all of that. And then it's also, it's got a vocal processor in it. So it too can go through hundreds of different, vocal delays and doubles and, the radio talk box kind of stuff that people use, compression, and it automatically EQs as it's playing. But it adds the harmony. So the harmony is probably the most interesting part. Is it can take what you're playing, and it is following what you're playing, the guitar chords and the keys that you're in, to come up with the harmonies that it produces. And you can set it up, again, all with these presets to do, harmonies in thirds, sevenths, multiple voices or one. So yeah, so the harmonization effect is probably one of the most important things that this thing can do. It'll set up harmonies in thirds and sevenths. You can set presets to program all that. It's following what you're playing on the guitar, whether you play the right or the wrong note. You can mess it if you go to a wrong chord, but you know, if you play an A versus an A minor, it can recognize that and then adjust the harmonies that it plays along with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's and you can set it to a fixed key. If you're doing something really complex guitar-wise, you can, again, program a preset that'll fix it to the key that you're in. So if you know the song's in the key of A, it's going to stick to that even if you start doing weird stuff in a different key on your leads. And then it's got the looper. So it's got a 3-channel looper. And that's where in the Velvet Underground song, you heard that I'm building layers. So looping is really just taking stuff and recording it on the fly. The drums I pre-record because it's really hard to do the drums with your feet and hit the buttons on the looper at the same time. It makes for a loop go really long to get it set up, and nobody wants to wait for that. But so I often will pre-record the drums and then add on to that. You heard the bass. Just by hitting one of the buttons, I can switch this thing to sound like a bass. And then put on the lead, the rhythm guitars and all that until the song comes together. You could get really more complex. There's other songs I'll do where, it's playing one line and riff for the verses, and then you can hit another loop to do the chorus and bounce back and forth. So
you create both of the loops in the beginning? And then...
Yeah, you just build it up. There's different songs that can do that if you've got changes. But yeah, you just build it up in the beginning or on the fly. It depends on, the structure of the song. But usually I'll build it up all in the beginning because you want to get the bass and the rhythm guitar going all onto it. And you can even loop the vocals as well. So, build different harmonies. Although this will harmonize for you, if you wanted to do something where, you kept singing the lead vocal and you loop that, and then you could come on top of it with something else. So, yeah. And I barely touched the capabilities of the VoiceLive 3. This other thing here is a Switch 6 that it's an add-on to the VoiceLive that gives you more buttons to be able to get into everything that's going on. That's just a simple 10-band EQ over here. The Super Octave, the Boss Octave 03, that's it'll create bass notes as well, but the difference to kind of show you is if I'm doing bass out of the VoiceLive, if you do a chord, it's going to sound yucky because it can only take one note and turn it into a bass. So I guess it's called mono whatever. I'm not sure the word.
Mono whatever. We'll go with that.
Yeah, the super octave is polyphonic. I know that word at least. You can play a whole chord, but it's going to pick out the root of the chord and play the bass note.
Gotcha.
It's not wired directly into the iPhone, so you don't hear it very well, but you might pick it up in the microphone, but it'll... I use it mostly when finger picking, just to give a little bit of body to the song.
Yeah.
And then this AirTurn Duo is a Bluetooth device that actually interacts with the iPad. You can't see the iPad here, but I use OnSong, an application called OnSong that stores all of my lyrics and the chords and all the songs that I play in my repertoire, and the foot pedals allow me to advance to the next song and to page through it, scroll through the lyrics and all that. Yeah. And it also, in a functionality, not to get too technical, but a functionality that I just started using is from the OnSong application, from the iPad through MIDI. So I got a MIDI Bluetooth feed going to the TC Helicon that as I advance through each song, it will change the presets. So for instance, for what it's worth, is using 304 preset. So that's a certain echo that you can now hear in the vocals and delay on the guitar and all that. But as soon as I then advance to the Sweet Jane song, you can see down on, and it may not come across on the video very well, but now it's on preset 424 for Sweet Jane, and that's going to get me into where I've saved the drum beat and all that. So it's.
So you plan an entire set?
Yeah, I can lay out. I can prepare all the set list on the iPad through the OnSong, and then as I advance through each song, it's gonna make the VoiceLive settings everywhere. It used to be, that's why all these buttons. It used to be each song I'd be like tap, tap, tap. Okay, and I know it's up here. Well, okay, it's going to be slot 307 and turn on the delay and turn off the reverb.
Right.
So it makes going from one song to another very quick.
I definitely noticed that when I watched your Facebook Lives, is that I thought it was very professional. You just went from one song to another, unless you stopped to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
To a toast, but yeah. So go ahead. I feel like I interrupted you.
No, that's it. The guitar is a Martin guitar. I've got a few others hanging on the walls, as you can see, but
as all guitarists do.
Yeah, I'm playing through a Fishman amplifier. I've got extra amps laying around the room too, so I do tend to buy equipment and then go, maybe something different. So my wife's nice to me and lets me get away with that.
So what else are you going to do for us?
Do a Sweet Jane, Velvet Underground, Lou Reed.
All right.
It's going to be a loop, so we're going to show off some of the looper capabilities. Standing on the corner, suitcase in my hand, jacket's coat, chain, and seeing fair. Me, I'm a rock and roll band. Right here in Stutz, big hat jam. You know those with different lives. How the poets start the rules of fast. The ladies, they just roll their eyes. Sweet Jane, oh, Sweet Jane, ooh. Sweet Jane, yeah. Let me tell you something, Jack, he's a banker. Jane, she's a cook. They both save their monies. They get home from work. Oh, setting up a fire. Woo. The radio, the play, this classical music, the gym, might stir the wooden soldiers. I hope this kid's get ready now. Get Jack say, Sweet Jane, oh, oh, Sweet Jane, ooh. Sweet Jane, yeah, Sweet Jane. Sweet Jane, Sweet Jane, Sweet Jane.
Yeah, and you do it all so smoothly.
All right, great stuff, helpful information. If you're thinking about forming a solo act, definitely check out some of the things that Gordon was talking about. Who knows what the other side of COVID-19 is going to look like? It could be that the economy is hurting so much that solo performers who could create a big full sound might be in demand because establishments might not have the same money they used to have to spend on musicians. Who knows? I don't know if that's true. I can't predict the future, but if you've been thinking about it, you've been toying with the idea of going solo, maybe now's the time to try some things out. Anyway, my thanks to Gordon. My thanks to you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out onlinewithjudyfine.com if you're in the market for improving your singing chops or learning some music theory. And I'll see you next time.